Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, we are recording this one a little bit earlier, but when this comes out, it will be after Christmas.
It'll be between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, so it'll be like 2 days to 2022. Wow, that's
crazy,
doesn't it?
I don't think it's going to be 2 days, but sure.
Well, I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's 3 days after Christmas, which makes it maybe 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Anyway, what I wanted to ask you is, what was the latest thing that you did that you kind of went, oh, wow, like I wouldn't have been able to do that once upon a time? Because I feel like as time goes on, they get less and less, but you still need to kind of remember. Because yesterday, I'll lead off. I had one of those moments where I was just like, oh my God, I can do this now. And I haven't had one of them in a while. And I was getting in and out of the roof, like so climbing a ladder and then pulling myself up into the manhole and then like, doing some lights and different things. And I just went up and down, and it was like at the end of the day, I went up and down to that manhole a lot. And I could just do it. And I was quite grateful that I can do that, because I remember once upon a time I did it when I was bigger, and I did it once, and the next day my arms and stuff were so sore, and like from trying to like lift myself up into the manhole and stuff. So
there's no way that I would have gotten into a manhole.
I was almost going to say to you, do you want to do it? I wanted to see if you could do it, because like I'm sure you could, but I was going to be like, do you want to go up there, like into the roof?
I have a fear of climbing ladders, so
Fear of climbing. Oh, you are such a complex little being.
I mean, if we had one of those things where, the staircases that you pull down and I could just walk up it, I would. But I hate climbing ladders. It's like one of my weird
Before
fears.
you answer the question of like your latest thing, what is your other fears? Because like you always have random ones, like because you got the fear of climbing ladders. Do you have any other random fears?
Well, I've got the obvious ones, spiders and clowns, but I also have a fear.
The obvious ones.
I have a fear of things coming out of holes. It's called trigonophobia.
I actually did know that one.
It's like, if anybody,
like
I think
but then you'll squeeze pimples.
No, but see, I love squeezing pimples because you're like, I know that that's the outcome. Like I'm squeezing this pimple for something to come. But it's like lotus pods and stuff like that. You know how there's holes in the lotus pods? It makes me really anxious and I feel sick because I'm like, I don't know if there's something in there that could pop out. Yeah, it's really, you think that I'm weird, but it's actually quite common. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you do have, they're very complex. Like mine might be afraid of the dark every now and then. And that's
Yours
like,
is you're scared of snakes.
Oh no, I just don't like them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're slithering weird. What was the answer to the other question? What was your latest like kind of NSV, let's say?
I'm having a lot of them at the moment at the gym because it's something that I've never done before. I've never wanted to go to the gym. I've never wanted
and strength stuff.
Yeah,
too,
I've never really been interested in strength stuff. I used to do it a little bit at like the gym when I used to go to, before surgery, and I'd go to the gym and I'd have a personal trainer and we'd do like one-on-one lifting. But the other day, I'm working up to a chin up. So I was doing what's called like jumping pull-ups. So I was on a box, I think it was like a 30-inch box, and I was hanging from the bar and you just jump up to being in the pull-up position, which to me, that's a massive goal of mine, to be able to do a chin up.
Yeah.
Like in box jumps, even being able to do box jumps, like just stuff like that, like that's massive for me. Like just even, or lifting a barbell that has weights on it. Like it sounds stupid, but yeah.
Yeah. I like that you're doing the CrossFit thing. I feel like you're really enjoying it, except for you're getting really weird injuries. Like
Butterfly butt?
I'd never heard someone say that before, but like where you have the chafe on your butt cheeks.
Yeah, I did 150 sit-ups really quickly and...
Friction.
It is. It's a friction burn on my butt cheeks.
Yeah, and you've had other ones. What was the other one for that? You had...
the blisters on
blisters
my
on your feet. Yeah, I don't want you to get like really rough and...
No, well, apparently I've been told by the girls at CrossFit that I need to shave my calluses.
Ew.
So in the shower, they like moisturize and then they shaved out. I went to the gym the other day and one of them was like, oh, damn, I forgot to shave my hands. And I was like, that was the weirdest sentence I've ever heard someone say.
That is. Yeah, but as time goes on, you've got to look for those like moments of just being grateful for like where you're at, because, we're almost 4 years out. It's just enjoying those little things. Because someone else who is, a fair way out is our guest today, 3 years out. So, it'd be a good question to ask her and see what her latest NSV is. So we might as well get her on, ask her the question and ask her a heap more questions on the process too.
Alrighty, well, today's guest was bypassed back in 2019 with a start weight of 155 kilos. Since going under the knife, she has lost close to 60 kilos, had a beautiful baby boy, survived almost a full year in lockdowns, and is well and truly on her way to becoming a personal trainer. Here to talk to us today about her journey, please welcome the resilient, the resourceful, and the very honest Kelly, also known as Discovering Mrs. P on Instagram. Hey, lovely, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Extremely well. So what was your latest, being 3 years out, what was your latest moment that you went, wow, like I can do that now, and you were grateful that you could do it?
Probably yesterday my daughter had her end of year breakup for her dancing, and I just would never have participated before, like a whole bunch of 5-year-olds dancing around the room, and I just didn't hesitate, just jumped in and did it all with her. So
yeah.
That's so cool.
It was fun.
It is not feeling like you being, that holding you back through judgment and stuff. Like you just kind of just do it and go, oh, I want to be part of that. Let's do that. You don't have that hesitation of like, oh, are people going to look at me funny for doing it, or, stuff like that. So no, that's a great one.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So you obviously 3 years ago, you went with the bypass. So what made you go the bypass over the gastric sleeve? What was the reasoning behind going that way?
It was a joint decision with my surgeon. He does both. But I did have reflux when I was pregnant with my daughter, because I had her before the surgery. And I also was like, I'm a massive sugar fiend. So I was like, if I could be punished for having sugar, I'm going to have to do that. So that's why I went the bypass.
Yeah, a lot of like Ash, because my partner, ex-partner, said she's going the bypass and she's looking forward to like being restricted through the sugar and stuff like that, which I feel like that's a great thing because it's kind of like forced quitting that addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, that's a good reasoning behind it. I would have went the bypass now looking back because I would have liked it's not malnutrition, they call it something else, but like, having malabsorption where you're not absorbing all the fat and different things out of food, because that's going to be a long-term thing to kind of assist.
Were you offered the bypass or did you just go straight sleeve?
No, I was offered the bypass, but they talked about some clot or something. I can't remember what it was, but how you have to monitor it long-term. And I was like, I don't really want to have to be concerned with long-term things
Side
that
effects.
might pop up. I didn't really look into like I kind of thought that was the only difference, but now looking back, I'm like, there's a lot of difference between bypass and sleeve, and I probably would have went the mini bypass these days if I had my time again.
Well, see, I wasn't even offered the bypass because my surgeon asked straight up, are you planning on having kids in the future? And if you say yes, he straight away doesn't do the bypass for you. So I was wondering, Kelly, for you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My surgeon, because I said that was one of the main reasons I wanted to have the surgery, because we were having trouble falling pregnant.
Yep.
And he was like, yeah, it's fine. It's either way, it doesn't matter. So
Isn't it funny how every surgeon differs? Because I did ask my surgeon like why that was the reasoning, and he said just because of the malabsorption. It might have been because I was still, late 20s and I was a little bit younger. I'm not sure, but maybe he just went, he just says, he asked 2 questions. I can't remember what the other one was, but one of them was, are you planning on falling pregnant? Because he just will not. He'll avoid doing bypasses in younger women who want to have babies just because he just wants to try and not.
It's like a precautionary thing.
Precautionary sort of thing, I guess. But
I guess like some surgeons are going to be more cautious of one thing to another, and vice versa. Same as like nutritionists and dietitians and stuff. Like they focus sometimes on this and other ones focus on that. Like some focus on the carbonation and then some focus on like the straws and.
But having said that, if you already had reflux, you'd be silly to do the sleeve if you've got reflux, because they do the bypass.
Yeah, he said you'll be back in 12 months if you had reflux before.
Yeah.
And because the pregnancy induced reflux was because the space was getting smaller and smaller. So it's like, if I make you a pouch, you're going to have the same problem. So
yeah.
Because you had your first child without having bariatric surgery, and the second was with her. Did you find a difference? Yeah. You did, yeah. What were some of the main differences that came about because of bariatric surgery?
The main difference was weight stigma during pregnancy. So with my first pregnancy, I was 130 kilos, and they were just constantly concerned about my weight and how much weight I was putting on and stuff. And my daughter ended up being tiny. She was actually really undersized, and I had an emergency Caesar when they realised how small she was because they thought that there was something massively wrong with her. But no one had checked that throughout my pregnancy. They were just so concerned about me that they never actually checked my baby, which was quite distressing. And it turns out she just has Down syndrome, nothing huge. And that's why she was small, because it's typical of kids with Down syndrome. They're just smaller when they're born.
Oh, wow.
But then with Harley, my second pregnancy, no one cared about my weight. It was really weird. I was like, do you need to weigh me? They're like, no. Oh, okay.
So
and
I
I had
wonder
so many like different tests and stuff with Emma's pregnancy, like for preeclampsia and stuff, and none of that with Harley.
I guess that's because they're generalizing, I guess, that we're obviously more unhealthy and have like other unhealthy habits and stuff when you're larger. So they kind of just need to make sure that you're in as good of health as you can be. And that's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder if because with diabetes and stuff like that, you can't pass that on to your baby, can you? Because I know if you have
gestational diabetes,
no, you can't. They're not trying. Oh, say that shows me, but because I know if someone is has a drug issue or something like that, and then they quit drugs, they can still pass it was speed. I think I remember hearing that they pass the addiction onto their child because they had that addiction. Yeah. I'm like, is there other things that are they can pass a disease, or
diabetes and that sort of thing can be hereditary as well. That's why your doctors always ask you, do you have diabetes in the family? Because it could be hereditary. But just because if you have diabetes when you're pregnant, your baby's not necessarily going to be born with diabetes.
I again, not super educated on the thing, but that was my focus. Maybe they did it because they might have thought you were had a certain disorder because of the weight, and you might pass it on to the child. And I don't know if maybe that might have been a thing around it, or don't know. That is interesting. That's weird. That's a thing.
Did you also find obviously being a lot lighter during the pregnancy? Were you taking more photos and that sort of thing of your bump, and was that a lot more noticeable?
Yeah, with my first pregnancy, I never even looked pregnant because Emma was so small as well. So I didn't have a bump at all. Before I gave birth, I had never had a stranger ask me when I was due.
Yeah.
And I was big, but I don't think I looked pregnant at all. Whereas with Harley, I had a noticeable bump, and I was still pretty small, I think.
Yep.
Compared to other people, but pregnancies, they're all different anyway.
Yeah.
And he was a boy and he was normal sized, and it was just completely different.
When you say normal size, what was how many pounds was your boy?
I don't know pounds. He was 3.5 kilos when he was born.
Okay. Is that funny?
And Emma was 2 kilos.
Oh,
so
wow.
she was almost half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
I never use pounds except for when we're talking about baby sizes when they're born. I never use it, but it's always I know my.
They don't do pounds anymore in hospital, so I don't know.
They don't?
What the
Oh, see,
but it's crazy though, because when someone says, "Oh, my baby was 7 pounds," I'm like, I actually have no idea how much that weighs, but I've been saying baby's weight in pounds for so long that it's comparable. So when you say that your baby was 3.5 kilos, I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how big my friends' babies were compared to that, because they've all been saying pounds.
8 pounds. Emma was 4 pounds something, and Harley was 8. I think.
That's really small, isn't it? 4 pounds. That's very small. Yeah.
So now you can I relate.
Yeah, because it did. Because I always my little brother was 10 pound 11.
Whoa.
He was a bopper,
Yeah,
and I was
big.
I was 6'8" or something. But
but he's also 7'2".
He's also 7'1" now or something. He's huge. He's a big bopper later on too.
So you, after surgery, you had a bit of a complication, did you?
Yes.
What happened?
So I was 5 weeks out from surgery, and I just started vomiting blood, which wasn't a great time. And so my husband had just gone to work, and I was home alone with Emma, who was 3. And I was like, this is interesting. And it just kept happening. After about 5 minutes, I was like, freaking out. So I called my surgeon. It was just during the day. And he wasn't there, but the nurse was, she was like, I think you should go to hospital. I was like, okay. So my husband ended up turning around and coming home and drove me to hospital. And I had an ulcer, so one of my stitches had been cut, and so my stomach was filling with blood, and that's why I was vomiting.
Oh, delightful. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long after surgery did you start noticing, was it the vomiting blood was the first sign of that ulcer, or was there other, effects earlier?
No, that was it. Just that.
Was it.
And it happened within 5 minutes, and I was just like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And so, they put me in for gastroscopy, and they just fixed it up.
So something had happened with one of the stitches, and you were getting blood into your new stomach.
Develop an ulcer, and then
I had just torn it was just a cut in my new stomach.
Yeah.
And because it was bleeding, because my stomach was so small, there was nowhere for it to go. So I was just vomiting it up.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Was that all you had early on, like complications or like issues?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I was just thinking like, what did I have earlier on? I remember when I was in hospital, when I first came out, I was like constantly like, what was it? Gagging, I guess, because I was like trying to vomit, and they were like, "No, you need to stop." And I was like, I had like because of the gas was making me, and that was like what made me think of it because I was like, "Oh, imagine if I like vomited blood or popped a stitch, and then I would have been like in all kind of strife." But
I was super nauseous coming off all the drugs, and I was just like, every 4 hours. I was hitting that button to make them come and give me more anti-nausea medication because pretty much at 4:01 on the dot, like every 4 hours, I would start heaving and I'd start like dry reaching, and the last thing I wanted to do was.
Well, I think that's exactly what happened. I was it must be nauseous. I don't really know nauseous had a feeling, but like that was because I was like, I just need to vomit, and they're like, no, you need to, we'll put some more drugs in you. I was like, but I just feel like I needed to vomit, and
I was terrified. I was terrified because I was like, the last thing I want to do is be sitting here like heaving and like you tense your stomach when you're heaving, and I was like, you've just operated on my stomach. The last thing I want to do is like be aggravating it. And I had my little vomit bag, and I was just like had all that saliva in my mouth that I was just like spitting out continuously. So much so that like it lasted for like 2 or 3 days that I was in hospital, and they sent me home with double dose of the ondansetron, the anti-nausea medication. Didn't take one of them. I haven't touched them. It was just in the hospital. It must have just been flushing my system out of all the drugs, and also I probably just didn't want to be in hospital. I was like, get me out of here.
This is making me nauseous.
White coat syndrome, get me out.
So last time, Kel, for you that you were this size, how old were you?
I don't know. I honestly have always just wanted to be under 100 kilos. I would have been over 100 kilos in high school, which is the first time I remember weighing myself. So I've always wanted to be under.
It's always been an issue for you, like weight's always been something you've struggled with?
Yeah, I think from early childhood, I would think. Like looking at photos, because I do telephonics, which is like a dance sport. And so we get professional photos taken every year. And so I was trying to look at when it started, and it's just sort of gradual from I started when I was 5. But like every year I just got a little bit bigger, and because when I was in primary school, I remember Mum used to bring me we were doing like this diet in thing, and she'd bring me chicken to school and stuff. So I'm like it's obviously I've always not been morbidly obese, but I've always been bigger, because to be on a diet when you're in primary school is kind of like that all started there. For you, obviously physically you've done really well. Mentally, how's the whole process gone for you? Oh, it's a shit show.
Hats off to you.
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm not doing great. I've actually had my first counselling appointment last week, just to sort of start getting on top of it. I think falling pregnant, I was 8 months out from surgery, and I had spoken to my surgeon. I was like, can I start trying? Because it had taken us, we'd been trying ever since Emma was born, to have another one. And he was like, yeah, give it a go. It might take a while, but whatever. And literally got pregnant that day. So we weren't really ready.
After the appointment, it got you really excited.
I just went home and my husband was like, let's go. So we did. Too much information, but that happened
great.
That day.
That's hilarious.
And then the next week we were in lockdown.
Wow.
So then we were in and out of lockdown, and I just assumed that it would be over by the time he was born. And then it got worse this year. So his whole first year, I've had postnatal depression and just lockdown.
Yeah, the combination of the two. Yeah. Do you find,
it hasn't been a fun time.
Do you, obviously being a mum of 2, time would be very limited as it is, but do you still find time for you?
It's something that I need to do, as a priority. My husband works shift work, so he's just all over the shop, everywhere. So there's no I don't have a set time that I have for me in the day. It's just whenever I can find it. So
and it's that's always the hardest thing to find as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the psychologist said to me after knowing this for 15 minutes, she was like, "You prioritize everyone else, not yourself." And I was like, yeah, but everyone else comes first. And she's like, no, you do.
Yeah, it's funny because like coming from the background we do, and it's something we talk about quite often, we always try and take the least selfish approach. Like even in the words we use, we try to say words that don't come across selfish. But it's something like as time goes on, I'm not being selfish. I'm just kind of putting myself first because like even with like friends, some friends that I'm like, you know what, we're friends, but we're not friends, you know what I mean? So like I just stopped trying to go out of my way to like put them before myself and like use that time elsewhere. And you know, if for example, like sometimes a leader may be like, oh, I want to hang out, and I'm like, oh, I need to go for a run for me, you know, and things like that. Like sometimes you need to just be a little bit selfish, that's the word I'm going to use, even though it's not selfish, to kind of be a better person in general, like, you know, to kind of like, you know, make yourself happier and healthier, and you know, and then that time's better spent with that other person, you know. So yeah, it's something I've had to deal with and other people deal with, and I think it's just all part of being, you know, this process. You have to kind of develop that inner selfishness.
It's something that I struggle with too, because I put everybody before me, like everybody. So that's something that I've been working on as well. But your husband has recently had the surgery this year as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And how did
he had it June.
And how did you find? Did you take on like the supportive? Obviously, you were a supportive partner. That was a stupid thing to say, but like, did you feel like you like took it on more so than your own journey? If that makes sense. Like, have you found it's like super? You just want to help him, and it's taking a lot more of your energy, or has it been easier because he's gone through the same sort of thing as you?
I think it was easier. It's been really funny. Our neighbour actually had it 2 weeks ago as well. So she's like constantly messaging me like, should I be feeling like this? And
little Barry community.
It's nice to watch someone that you love go through it, I think, because he watched me and was really supportive with me, but he still had those habits that got us where we were. And then I suggested it to him 18 months ago maybe. And I was like, have you ever thought about it? And he's like, no. And then the next week he was like, I'm going to do it. Like it was just complete 180. He was like, I never thought that I was allowed to. Like he had put me first. Like, this is what you want to do and this is good for you. But then to watch him, and he's just changed completely in all the good ways. Like it's been a really good 6 months for us.
Yeah, and it's changed the dynamic a little bit. Like, are you guys, you know, finding more energy and more, you know, more time together now? Is that kind of where it's improved, or? Yeah,
it's just we instead of just being at home and sitting on the couch, like we want to go and do stuff.
Yeah, and
especially with the kids at the ages that they are, Harley's starting to move around, and Emma's just like a ball of energy, and they just want to do stuff and they want to play with us. And this is why we did it, because I was just so not lazy. I just had no energy whatsoever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a good side effect to have, really, where you're a more active parent. You know, it's not a bad thing, that's for sure.
It's funny, your face just lit up when you were talking about that too, though. Like being being an active mom, like your husband as well, like just growing into being this new person as well. Like your face, it just says it all. Like just how happy you are about the whole situation. It's really nice to see.
Huge NSV, really, when you think about it.
It wouldn't have been easy either, like being stuck in lockdown for so long, and you know your kids do just want to get out and run around and have fun with you guys, but it's, you know, you're stuck in the house, and so it's really good to see you so positive and happy about, you know, the outcome in the last 6 months, because it would have been hard.
Yeah, especially with the lockdowns. Has physical like my brain just went. Has exercise played a big part for you throughout your process, or have it been, you know, what has been your form of exercise?
I've always exercised, which is frustrating because I never lost any weight.
Preach.
So I've always been a member of a gym. I've always like riding bikes and just, I've always done calisthenics, which is quite an energetic sport. But throughout this, I started F45 about 6 months after I had my surgery, and I loved that. But 3 months after I started, we went to lockdown. And so, I haven't been able to get back into that, mainly financially now, because I did lose my job from COVID as well. So that's where the personal training has come in.
For you, now.
Sort of get myself started in new career.
Yeah. So are you just doing home workouts at the moment and trying to like develop like systems like that? Obviously, why you can't go to the F45 sessions, or where are you doing that?
At the moment, I'm just walking, and I do have a membership at another gym, just a 24/7 they don't care about you, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Perfect
is great.
way. Yeah.
We got them really cheap, those memberships, just before we went into lockdown this time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we go occasionally, but yeah, mainly just walking at home.
Well, it's not a bad thing, though, to go through, like, because if you just did F45 and then you went to be a personal trainer, you kind of have like a small window of like, that's my exercise. But I guess this is making you kind of develop other ways to stay active, which is then going to make you a better personal trainer because you can give more options to people. Because that's one thing I've realized, I project, running, I love running. People are like, I hate running. So it's like everyone has their form of like, Alita's really getting into CrossFit. She enjoys running as well. I enjoy running. Other people would just like gym and strength and stuff like that. So, it's giving you more spectrum to kind of things that you could do, especially in lockdowns, like because that's becoming just like a normality and everyone's going to need new exercise routines for it.
I want to talk to you about that dance group thing that you...
Calisthenics.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you keep on saying it because I was reading your form and I was like, how on earth do you pronounce that? So what is it?
It's so hard to describe. It's like rhythmic gymnastics on a stage. So we don't do hoops and balls, we do rods and clubs. So it's like there's 6 different disciplines. So there's a ballet one, there's a marching one, there's like a gymnastics one. We sing sometimes. It's very hard to describe. If you go on YouTube and you type in Australian calisthenics, there's heaps of videos and stuff. But yeah, it's a cult. Once you're in, you're in. And so I coach as well.
I was going to say, I saw that your team that you coach won something recently.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So it's something that you've done from an early age? Like you participate in it? You compete in it?
I started when I was 5.
Yep.
I stopped competing. I just fill in. A couple of years ago, someone died, and so I had to fill in for her, unfortunately. But I just coach now.
Wow. And then so you, as a coach, did you coach when you were overweight?
Yeah.
And how
I coached since I was 18.
Wow, okay. So you've been like involved in this sport like literally your whole life, and I've never heard of it before.
It's pretty big in Victoria and New South Western Australia.
Wow, okay. I kind of want to YouTube it now. I'm going to...
Calisthenics. Calisthenics? Did I say that right? Calisthenics. Yeah. I'll have to look it up as well. I've heard of it. I've never
I've not
looked into it, but I've heard of it.
How has your coaching style changed, if any, since losing the weight?
So it's quite a flexible, strengthy sport. Mm-hmm. And so every class starts with a warm-up and a stretch. And when I was bigger, I would instruct, and now I demonstrate.
Hey.
So I'm just in with them doing everything, whereas before I would just yell at them, tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So you're leading by example now, not just...
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
It's a more active role. It's good for you too because it's like things like that where you do that frequently is going to help you long term as well, like because you're doing that, you're forming that as part of your thing where once upon a time you wouldn't have done it. And it probably would have helped you back then if you had done it. But
accidental exercise.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I stopped competing too. Having a baby was a convenient excuse. But I just couldn't keep up anymore.
Yeah.
And, it's 4 minutes of full-on, like, massive energy requirement. And I was just getting too tired. I couldn't keep up anymore. And so, yeah. I'm probably going to get back into it soon.
I was going to say, will you compete again?
I will. I need a couple more years so that all the people that I am friends with get old enough to be in the oldies with me.
So obviously doing the coaching thing, that's been like something you've done for a little bit. Is that kind of what led you to look into the PT lines, to be like, know what, I really enjoy this. I want to, put myself out there more. Is that kind of what led you that way, is it?
Yeah, it's sort of two things. I really enjoy coaching. It lights my fire. And so why not do that for the rest of my life? But also having young kids, it's really hard to find a job that people are willing to be flexible with you in. And so work for myself. What can I do to work for myself that I enjoy?
Yeah.
insane.
Isn't it funny? Like I've heard a study thing the other day with this whole COVID situation. The unemployment rate has gone up, but the people looking for work has gone down. And it's purely because people have gone out, and it's like the first time ever they've seen that in the statistic. It's because people are going out to work for themselves now. You know, they've kind of gone, you know what? Or, you know, I enjoy this, I can do this, and I'm going to work for myself. I thought it was a really interesting statistic that's come around because of COVID. A lot of people have gone.
Or like Kelly, she's lost her job due to COVID, and you've got no other choice. It's like I either sit here and feel sorry for myself and try and live off the dole, or I do something about it. And, you know, what do I love doing? What can I make money out of? So that's so good.
Because it's like you're following a passion now. You're following something that's going to make you happier long term.
Yeah.
So it's a great side effect.
How far down the course, like the study, are you to be being the PT?
So about halfway through certificate 3.
Yep.
So it's certificate 3 and 4 in fitness, and you can do your own personal, like work for yourself personal training. So if I finish the certificate 3, I can just do like group training in a gym. Yep. And then certificate 4 is on your own, you can do. So yeah, I'm probably about a year away.
From being certificate 4, being able to do it all by yourself?
Yeah.
Yep. So in between that, do you think that you will sort of join like a group fitness as a coach and like sort of get your foot in the door that way?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do. Childcare is an issue at the moment.
Yeah.
Of course.
Trying to find care for Harley because everyone's kids are in childcare now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to find a position. So he's only got 1 day a week at the moment. So I don't have a lot of time to be working as well as running the family.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can incorporate them into like, you know, what you do, like, you know, baby lifts and different things like that. You know, free baby care when you use them as your weight tools.
It's funny. I've got some hand weights just in the lounge room near the TV, and Emma's constantly like, "Exercise, mum," and she's like using the dumbbells. It's really cute.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I've always said that when I have a kid, you know, my runs will just, I'll take them with me, you know, like, or incorporate them into that. Like,
you bench press the kids, is that what you're trying to say?
Well, more mine's run because I don't really lift weights. But you know, I can incorporate them into my cardio. Your goals prior to surgery, I'm gonna make you go back now. Like, you know, think back to like before you went through with bariatric surgery. What was your pre-surgery goals that you had?
Weight wise, I just wanted to be under 100 kilos.
Yep.
But I just wanted to live my life.
Yeah.
Like I was just existing, and you know, when you have a child with a disability, so much revolves around them and trying to get them where they need to be. And I just lost myself, and I just needed to find myself again. And
how has that gone throughout the years? Like, if you feel like you're on your way there, because obviously it's not going to just happen overnight. You know, it's a process.
Yeah,
but do you feel
I think
like
I'm getting there.
Steps? Yeah. I think you going down the PT lines is definitely a step in the right direction to finding yourself, because it sounds like, you know, even when you talk about it, your face changes of like, you know, I think it's something that you've wanted to do, but you've always held yourself back from doing something like that. Yeah. And you've, well, one, you know, losing your job has forced you in that direction, but it's also going to be better long-term for you because happiness is key.
I also feel like by you actually acknowledging and going to like a counsellor, your counsellor is going to, or your psychologist is going to tell you like, no, like as you said, you are number one and you've got to put yourself first. So I think she or he is going to really like sort of reiterate and like get you to start taking action and like coming out and like actually being able to live your best life, if that makes sense. Like everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to.
It's so hard though as a parent, like as a mum, like mums do that.
Yeah.
Like they put others first, you know, and it's all good being like, you need to find time. But a mum just doesn't do that. It's like not inbuilt into their brain. Like,
but especially for yourself though, because like you've got a child that has special needs. So you're putting all your time and energy into that child. You've now got a newborn. Your husband is a shift worker. Like as you said, how do you find time to make it all work?
As much as you need to go, you know, talk to a shrink about like, you know, them told you to have time. You almost need to have another person you can go to help you form that time. Yeah. It's like, let's draw up a plan, you know, and sit
I need a life coach.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what it is really, isn't it? Because they go about like, you know, helping to time prioritize and stuff like that. This is the reason I get up at 4:30 every morning because
I do too, but they're my children.
Yeah, true. Well, that's true. I don't have children. I have puppies, and that's why I take them for a walk. So I guess that's my time with my children. But you know, waking up, I found when I was waking up at like 6:30 and I was going to work at 7, I was just well, 7:38. But like, you know, getting up at 6:30, I used to
Aiming
always
for
be like,
7.
yeah, I have the urge to leave at 7, but then I probably procrastinate for another hour and a half, and then I finally get out the door.
Yeah.
Joys of working for yourself, because it's kind of like you go, oh, I'm going to start at 9 or 10 today. But you know, when I used to get up at 6:30, which I thought was early back then, I just found there was not enough time for me, like especially when I started taking up running and stuff like that. And that's why now I religiously, my alarm is set every day for 4:30. You know, and even now my smart lights come on at 4:30, and like, so it makes me get out of bed, because I know that extra 2 hours really comes in handy, even though now I go to bed at like 8:30 at night. But you know, either way, you sometimes just have to make those little sacrifices to get those little things fit in, because days just get so short sometimes. So yeah, I think that's been a big thing.
And then moving forward, 2022 is just around the corner. What are some of your big goals for next year?
So next year, our daughter starts primary school, which is the scariest thing ever. So yeah, I think next year for me, it's going to be for me.
Yep. Because you'll have more time.
We do want to
'cause
have
she'll be
another
at school.
baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, just whack them all out. Why not?
Yeah, that's it.
If we can, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to finish my course, and yeah, we'll be in more of a routine with Emma at school, and Harley just fits in with everything. So
I love how your brain works though. Like, hey, we're going to put one kid into school, so I have a little bit more time. So let's have another one. You know, like,
yeah, why not?
It's like, I feel like the biggest issue is it sounds like you don't want time.
Yeah.
You're kind of just like busy. If I can be really busy, that's great.
I do want time, but I also like,
Want a family?
I
Love being a
feel
mom.
like we need to have some more kids. Yeah.
You need a Brady bunch.
I also love though that I like the question was, what are your goals for next year? And the very first thing that came out of your mouth was about your kids. No. What are your goals? Like, you're like, oh,
No, it's
my
not about
kids. See, this is what we're working on.
It's so hard.
It is, but I think when you have a kid,
I'm just going to finish my studies next year. That's what I'm going to do.
yeah,
Perfect.
your PT, and then start down the lines of that, and you know, start getting some little clients in, and that'll be pretty cool. Like to actually have clients that you can like hang out with, and that'll end up being your time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I teach with calisthenics. I teach a group of teenage girls. So I've got them again next year. And then this year I also taught the group of older ladies, so anyone over 26. But my average age was 50 in my team that I taught. And so I'm not teaching them next year, but they've all said, oh, when you're qualified, I'll come and work with you. Okay, no worries. I've already got my customer base set up.
Oh, wow, that's good. That's really cool.
It is. That's a great little niche, because it's kind of, you know, being that age, you'd want to be taught, you know, and you don't want the big, you know, manly muscle guy being like, well, maybe because you might be like, oh, look at his manly muscles. But, you know, having that kind of, you know, being able to know what you would want to do and then pass that on to others.
I can totally see your business, like your personal training style, be kind of like a cross between like your, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, your calisthenics.
Calisthenics?
Calisthenics.
Yeah.
That one.
Since when do I know a word?
Yeah.
If she does it, that's straight.
It'll be a cross between that and like personal training. So it'll almost like, it'll just be so much fun. I feel like that's where you could take it. It's like a cross between coaching, but also personal training. So it's like building. Yeah. That's where I can see it going.
Calisthenics meets F45.
Oh my God, imagine that.
That would be like
That would be
actually pretty sick. It's like little routines around, and you're just like going hard for like 6 minutes.
I love everything.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Clearly, we have no idea what we're talking about though, because that could be what you
Well,
already
she
do.
said it was quite intense. She goes, well, that kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
probably.
you've just explained what I already do.
What would be your top tip for someone just setting out on this journey?
Do your research. I think, I took 5 years to figure out that I really wanted to do it. And yeah, so I think I was more settled, and I knew, not that I knew what I was going to feel, but I knew what was going to come instead of just making a snap decision. Yeah.
So how is like?
And then just do what makes you happy. You don't have to do what everyone else does.
Yeah, 100%. Like find you. That's a very important message. Because obviously your husband was very snap decision. Like a week later, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go with this. Where you said you took 5 years to kind of get your head around it. Do you feel like that's made you approach the processes differently? like looking at it, or have you been very
I
similar?
don't know that his was necessarily a snap decision. He just didn't think he was allowed to.
Oh, okay.
But
And
also
when
he
I
would have
brought it
watched her
up,
go
we'd
through
never
it.
talked about it. When I brought it up, he was like, "Oh, can I do that?" Yes, you can do what you like. You're a grown up. And yeah, I think maybe it was always in the back of his mind, but he never actually thought that he could. And then when I was like, "Oh, why don't you?" and he's like, "Okay." So
Well, yeah, it probably would have been in the back of his head because he would have seen you go through it and then be very successful. And he's kind of like, oh, like, oh, maybe I should. But then like, oh, but I'm not allowed to. So yeah, you're right. He probably took all the years that he's watched you and been like, oh yeah, I would like that. And then all of a sudden just went, oh, I can do it. Yeah,
funny
okay,
though,
let's go.
I've always been bigger than him, and then when I got under him, I think that was the catalyst for him to be like, "Oh, now she's skinnier than me," and now he's like 500 grams heavier than me. And every week he's like, "Oh, am I under?" I'm like, "Well, I lost a bit this week," and so yeah, it's quite funny. He's trying to get under me.
It's like turning into like a
you're not
competition
competitive
between
at all.
until one day you both just vanish.
Did he? Because I know in your form that you filled out, you said that one of your fears going into surgery was like, not making it through the surgery and leaving your daughter for your partner to your husband to look after. Do you think that might have been one of the sort of thoughts going through his mind as well, though, leading into surgery, or do you think he like blokes' minds don't work that way? Do you think that he was kind of like, oh, what if something happens?
He's an eternal optimist. No, he's always like, he's the sunny side to my dark side. He's like, I'm always thinking about what can go wrong, and he's always thinking about what could go right.
Yeah, well, that's good.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, super light. I was about to do a Star Wars reference. He's like your Luke to your Skywalker, or whatever it was, because isn't that like? And I thought,
I don't really know Star Wars very well.
I don't either, obviously. But no, that's good, yin and yang. So that's really cool. So yeah.
Given your time again, would you do anything differently?
I don't think so. No.
No, just everything's taught you a lesson that's coming handy down the track.
Yeah, I'd like to say maybe wait a bit longer to have a baby because I wasn't finished losing weight. But then I wouldn't have Harley, I'd have a different baby. And he's pretty cool, but I don't want to trade him in.
He's all right. I guess I like him. I was going to ask you when you said do your research, the surgeon that you went through, you've only just started speaking with the psychologist now. Did your surgeon get you to do the pre-checks? Like, did you see a dietitian? Did you see a psychologist, all that before surgery?
Yeah, so we saw a psychologist before the surgery, but that was more just to make sure that it was an informed decision. It wasn't really a lot about mental health.
Yeah, you're just ticking
but then
boxes.
follow up, we've got dietitian and I do have a psychologist, but I feel like my issues aren't bariatric related.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It's more like everything else related.
Yeah,
life related.
Yeah. I always think back and feel sorry for my bariatric psychologist because I went to my after thing and I was going through a divorce and I was like mentally like depressed and like literally depression level 10, and I'm like there and I'm like crying and like just laying it all out there, and she literally goes, yeah, so I'm going to refer you to this person, because I have no more sessions and they probably do a little bit better than that. And I'm like thinking back, I'm like, there was nothing about food. It was just literally like, I'm so depressed.
My life sucks.
So and they're like, okay, this is a bit above my
my pay grade.
My pay grade. I'm gonna have to send you on to this person. Yeah. Well, it's good that you've taken that step anyway, and I'm sure leading forward, all these things like going out by yourself, doing the PT, getting the tools in place with the psych and stuff. I'm sure it's all going to lead to amazing things. It'd be interesting to chat back with you in like a year's time or whatever, and just see how things have changed for you, and hopefully by then you're PTing away and
have another baby,
have all these little lessons. So
why not?
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. If people want to reach out to you, to ask you questions or even just to hit you up to be their new PT, where's the best place to find you?
On Instagram.
Yeah. And that handle will be in the description below. And it was, what was your handle?
Discovering Mrs. P.
There you go.
With all the underscores.
Everyone has underscores everywhere.
Everyone has underscores. I remember we went on the radio one time and they were literally like, so where do I find you? And I was like, Shannon _ story. And then you were
Leader _ finding
And that was
_
the-
X.
And then we were doing the triathlon with L. That's right. And then she was L _ and it was like she had
There was
like 8 of them, and they're like, wow, there's a lot of underscores. I'm like, I feel like everyone in the bariatric community has underscores.
It was like
You need them.
we only had like a 2-minute segment on the radio, and half of it was taken up by us just being like ______.
Well, Kelly, you're a remarkable human. You've done incredibly well, and I feel like there's a lot more to unroll for your story, and I look forward to seeing it happen. So, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And good luck to you two with your extra special journey.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to the practice. But anyway, guys.
The men always do.
I think, it's
Simple
it's pretty
beings.
programmed into our simple little minds. So, it is what it is. If it happens, and that's kind of the mentality you got to take into it, because it isn't as simple as sometimes as you think it's going to be. So,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But anyway, guys, that is have a fantastic end of 2021, and I hope everyone's 2022 is more than you wanted it to be. So anyway, is that not right?
The way you just said that was really
I
weird.
feel like it made sense in my head, but a lot of things make sense in my head and other people's heads. But anyway, guys, that is another episode of Barry Banter. Why, yes, that is another episode of Barry Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.